Well, Transport Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga's robbery, along with her protectors, rather offers proof that no one really is safe in this country. And joining us live in studio is an international law enforcement expert who is armed with extensive experience in serving SA presidents and international dignitaries. Lobo Das Nevesm joins me right now, right here on Newslink. And thank you so much for joining us, Lobo. Very good morning to you. I mean, we heard from Athlinda Mathe, the SAP spokesperson, saying that the protectors were not prepared for what happens. And I just wonder, when you are a VIP protector in the service of protecting a VIP member such as a minister, shouldn't you be prepared for anything at all that could happen anytime because of how creative criminals seem to get every single time?
The basic training for any VIP specialist is specifically to be prepared for anything. So I don't think it's a valid excuse that they weren't prepared. There's also a standard generic operational procedure that one should follow in the event that there's a flat tire or a mechanical incident while protecting a principal. So this obviously needs to be investigated thoroughly to see what went wrong on many levels without obviously victim blaming at the end of the day, to establish training tips on how to train members in the future to prevent this from happening. But an incident like this should not happen.
Should never happen. As someone who has extensive experience in this regard, working with VIP members and government officials, etc., how would you have handled such a situation? How really does one handle such a situation when you are a VIP protector?
Generically speaking, stopping is the last thing that you want to do.
Okay.
The moment you stop your convoy or your vehicle, you're actually placing your principal under threat. So one would assume or hope that they had run flat tires or ballistically protected tires, which would take them away from the scene of danger. One would also hope and understand that they'd use radios to call in for backup in a situation like that as well, because that's one of the first things you do. Remove yourself from the scene, call backup.
Right. In this situation, we understand that it was more of a robbery. Items were taken, and the SAPS member Athlinda Mathe saying that the protectors decided not to retaliate, and they wanted to preserve life. They said is one of the reasons why they didn't necessarily engage with criminals. And she says that was the best way to handle a situation like that. What's your response and reaction to this?
It's difficult. I wasn't there. Yeah. It's difficult to come to a conclusion, but under normal circumstances, when somebody attacks you while armed, it justifies the use of deadly force.
I mean, when we look at what's happened to a minister, a sitting minister of transport, and how exposed she was, does this raise a concern to you, Lobo, in terms of the danger that even, it seems, ministers and high-ranking government officials are posed by when it comes to crime in this country? One would think that because of so much resources going into VIP protection, they're almost immune, to the dangers of crime because of the heavy presence that they have around them of protectors. But does this mean that they're now officially exposed to crime, just like any ordinary South African?
I think they've always been exposed to crime. That's why they have a protection team. Otherwise, it wouldn't be necessary. But what I think has been highlighted in this incident is that a protection team doesn't make anyone bulletproof. Now, what happens often with principals that you protect, there's a sense of a superhuman expectancy with their protection detail. And one has to look at the circumstances that brought that team to this situation. Because it may be so that the principal gave instructions on route planning or whether to stop or not, contrary to the training of the protection officers. Because although they are trained, the principals, unfortunately, don't get trained, and that's a problem. So the principals should at least get an information package on when do they give instructions to the protection detail and when do the protection detail members give instructions to the principal. When it comes to safety, the protection detail should be giving the instructions.
Right. Because they're more experienced.
Because they're trained.
They're trained, actually, yeah.
Correct.
Also, the other concern that we're seeing is that no one has been arrested so far. for the robbery. In a situation like this, should it be easy to find, a crime syndicate, criminals that have targeted a sitting minister? Should there have been by now, a team that's been dispatched to find, any evidence whatsoever that could lead them to who those culprits are? Or is this really just another case like in any other ordinary crime in South Africa?
Hopefully this isn't one of those cases, and it's quite sad that we have a term for ordinary crime in this country. It shouldn't.
That's how desensitized.
That's how desensitized we are. From an investigation point of view, when you have multiple suspects in the middle of the night wearing masks, it's difficult to find the identity of those individuals. One may assume that they were wearing gloves, that there's no latent fingerprints on the scene, and that they just made a clean break. However, this is where crime intelligence comes into play.
Right.
And a good crime intelligence unit will activate the informers, seek witnesses, look for maybe CCTV camera footage on the route. Even if there's nothing available in the immediate vicinity, they may have an idea or description of the vehicle and then pick up the vehicle, even if it's kilometers away from where the incident occurred.
Right. What's the lesson here for VIP protection in South Africa?
Well, lesson number one, and this is something that when I teach, I tell them as well, you are not bulletproof. Don't assume that the mere fact that you armed and carrying a badge with you, that makes you bulletproof. Number two, training is one thing, discipline is something else. You can have the best trained close protection officer in the world. If that person is not disciplined, you have no protection officer. So stick with the basic rules, the basic SOPs, and follow your training at all times, even if it is in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us about this. I appreciate your time speaking to us right here. International law enforcement expert Lobo Das Nevesm joining me right here on Newslink.